Hey travelers, welcome back to day number 7 of my daughter and my trip through Europe this past summer. We're departing beautiful Austria for beautiful Bratislava. Along the way, we will show you some beautiful architecture. I'll show you every dollar that we spent in a given day. We take in some familiar cuisine. We then go on a walking tour, and I'm going to share my hack for how we book free walking tours when we're out and about. And then we'll close things off with some genuine Slovak cuisine, which was stellar. So hang in there, and hey, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe and come along with us through our journey this past summer. Hey travelers, that's me, Brian, also known as the OCD Traveler. And that's my beautiful daughter, Maddie. As you can probably tell, Maddie just graduated from high school. And before she leaves me forever, we decided to take an epic trip. Only backpacks, 14 days, 7 countries, traveling Europe, and you're invited. So let's go! Welcome to day number 7, Vienna, Austria to Bratislava. As we kick things off, one thing we decided to do on this trip was send a postcard from everywhere we went back home. The Wombat made this easy. We were able to buy a postcard, fill it out, and turn it into the front desk, and they mailed it for us. Put that in the post. Thank you so much. With the postcard in the mail, it was time to get the heck out of Dodge, so we made sure that our room was ready to go. We went next door. There's a Hofer adjacent to the Wombat. Hofer's just like an Aldi. It changes names depending on what country you're in. And then we decided to this time be smarter and hit some public transportation on our way back to the subway station. So we waited for a bus, traveled through the streets of Austria, met up with a bunch of kids that were apparently going to the same place we were. Luckily, they were on a different train, so they didn't take up everybody. Then it was down to the subway platform, where, of course, we missed the first train, but we're quickly on another train, making our way back to the Vienna main station. This complex is really huge. I'm sure it makes sense to folks that live there, but I was just amazed at how large this was. I got crabby after a couple of wrong turns, but not Maddie. Say hi. Finally, just before 10:30, we arrived on our platform right on time for our train, which was going to depart at 10:45. Now, I'm a pastry freak, so I thought showing you 5 minutes of me eating these Hofer pastries would be a great use of your time, but don't worry, I cut this down to just a couple of seconds. But overall, the train ride from Vienna to Bratislava was super easy, right around an hour with a couple of stops, costing just over $36. It was a nice, enjoyable way to spend an hour of our day. But soon we were in Bratislava. At the train station, there was an area where we could buy tickets for public transportation, which we went ahead and did, then crossed the street and made our way over to our Airbnb. After making our way towards our Airbnb, we were immediately impressed by Bratislava, but less impressed with the complexity of getting into the Airbnb. It started with having to find a key under a windowsill, traversing through a gate, then making our way through yet another door. Then we headed up a flight of stairs. We're able to get onto an elevator. I believe we were up on the 8th or 9th floor, which will come into play later, importantly. Packed our way into a little European elevator, took a selfie, made our way up some more stairs, found our key in a lockbox, and then finally arrived at our Airbnb about 2 hours after we left the Wombat. Did have air conditioning. That was huge. The air conditioning worked well, and it was very inexpensive at $140 per night. As you can see, a large seating area. The heavy with this particular location was this awesome terrace that was located just off the main room. So we head out there. I didn't do a good job of taking pictures, but here are some stock pictures from the Airbnb listing. As you can see, beautiful terrace with some seating area. And it didn't matter if it were day or night. You had some great views and were able to take in the sun, which was a little bit oppressive in the summer. And it had both daytime and nighttime views of the city of Bratislava. So Maddie and I were finally at our destination for 2 full nights so we could unpack a little bit, check out the bathroom. It had a shower in one room and then a separate room with a water closet, which was nice. So 2 different sinks. You could each kind of get ready, although that sink's quite tiny. A bed that we would have to share, unfortunately, but we made the best of it. We also made the best of the washing machine. We unpacked, freshened up, but we knew that we were on our way to have some lunch and off for a walking tour. Now, as we make our way through this old town square, you will be disappointed with our selection for lunch, I'm confident, but we started going to McDonald's in different countries years ago because my son is a picky eater and has a peanut allergy. So we like to try it out every time we're in a new city, which we did do yet again in Bratislava. I fell in love with these ordering kiosks in Europe years before they arrived in the United States, and it is perhaps one of the greatest inventions ever, but we ordered up. Where else can you find such a beautiful area to eat at a McDonald's and try new things? So we tried a different set of burgers, and then they had this pommes frites sauce that we tried on our fries. They also had some larger potato wedges and a curry sauce you're able to get, which Maddie will try out now. All in all, for less than $13.
Like this.
Wow, that's cool. Eat the whole thing. I like. Yeah, free.
So next up, we went on a walking tour, and it's considered a free walking tour because we booked it on freetour.com. I'm not sponsored. I get nothing from plugging this. I just like to use it. Download the freetour.com app, put in the city that you're traveling to, in this case, Bratislava, and as you can see, there's a host of different walking tours. Now, they'll show reviews, they'll show different languages, there's even some paid options, but I highly recommend downloading and using this app. Our particular tour had a 9.7 review, which is great. Be sure to tip your tour guides because they work their tails off. But let's get into our walking tour. But soon we were in place and ready for our free walking tour to begin with the very talented tour guide, Millie. Now, one of the things I really loved about this walking tour is how quickly you realize that Bratislava isn't trying to impress you with size or grandeur. It's compact, it's walkable, and it tells its story through people, not just buildings. Again, our guide Millie did a great job of balancing history with the little details that make a city feel human, and that starts almost immediately here in Old Town. One of the first stops on our walking tour was this statue, the man in the top hat, and he represents Ignác Lamar. Lamar lived in Bratislava from the late 1800s and early 1900s. Now, he wasn't famous for politics or money. He was known for wandering the streets dressed like a gentleman and tipping his hat, dancing, greeting people, and spreading joy. He also took care of people with disabilities, and today he's remembered as a symbol of kindness and humanity, which says a lot about Bratislava. And then almost immediately after that, the tone shifts because right around the corner is Bratislava's most famous statues, Men at Work, or Čumil, as I believe it is pronounced there, but it literally means the watcher. There's no deep historical meaning here, and that's intentional. Bratislava placed statues like this after communism to break away from the seriousness and remind people not to take everything so seriously. Now, after Čumil, the tour keeps going through Old Town. I pass McDonald's once again. 1 minute you're standing in the middle of a narrow street laughing at a statue popping out of a manhole, and the next you're crossing open squares that feel completely different in tone. Streets are wide open, you'll see cafes and people all over on the cobblestone. Then Old Town gives way to this beautiful tree-lined boulevard, quieter, greener, more reflective, almost like a buffer between this playful side of Bratislava and the deeper history that's coming next. As we approach the cathedral, maybe another mood shift, Millie shared with us as we were outside of St. Martin's, the cathedral in Bratislava, a Slovak tradition which was kind of surprising. Many of us had never heard it before, called Easter Monday. Traditionally, boys would lightly whip girls with braided willow branches or pour cold water over them. And yeah, hearing that for the first time, it sounds shocking. But the meaning behind it is symbolic, not violent. So willow branches represent health and fertility, and water represents purification and renewal after the winter. In return, girls would give the boys decorated eggs, food or drink, and today, especially in cities, it's mostly playful or symbolic or even treated as a joke, but it comes from ancient spring rituals that existed long before Christianity. It's one of those moments where you realize that old traditions don't always translate cleanly into modern life, but they still tell you a lot of how deeply culture, seasons, and community were woven into everyday Slovak history. Just past the area of the cathedral, our guide Millie also pointed out something a little bit more somber, the remains of Bratislava's former Jewish quarter. You can see bricks stacked. It isn't random. It marks where the synagogue and Jewish homes once stood before the neighborhood was destroyed in the 20th century through wartime devastation and later through communist-era redevelopment. And instead of fully rebuilding what is lost, it was kind of cool. The city decided to preserve the outlines and fragments of a reminder of what used to be there. It was tough to just kind of walk through, kind of ignoring what happened in the past, but was a great reminder of what humanity can do to itself. And this scene is repeated over and over throughout Europe. From there, the tour turns uphill away from the freeway. You start climbing stairs, and then the city begins to open up in front of you yet again. And then along the way, we pass one of Bratislava's most infamous statues, a nude bronze figure that locals rub for good luck. And I believe they rub it on, well, its private parts. So another example of the city's personality. Even after a heavy history, Bratislava doesn't stay too serious for too long. Humor and irreverence are baked right into the experience, and this was a cool little statue to see, and I honestly don't believe we stood around to rub it for luck. Next, we stopped here because the claim is that this metal ball embedded into the wall was a cannonball from Napoleon. Now, our guide and everybody else calls BS on that story because there's no evidence that Bratislava was shelled like this, and the placement in the dead center, well, it just doesn't make sense. But a cool little story as you're going through your walking tours. Did I mention that there are a lot of stairs as you go around the cathedral? Where there certainly are, but then you reach kind of the precipice and you get a big payoff from the climb. The view opens up over the Danube River with the UFO bridge stretching across the river. Now, we'll be at the UFO tomorrow. That's kind of a cool space needle with a bar on top, but I'll be there tomorrow. So again, like and subscribe to see day number 8. And then from there, we really saw how small and everything was connected. Austria to one side, Hungary nearby, the old town behind you, and a modern city pushing forward. It was one of those moments where you stop filming and you just take everything in for a second. Next, after climbing a little bit more, we found the entrance to Bratislava Castle, and you guessed it, more and more stairs. At the castle grounds, the conversation shifted a couple of times. Millie did a good job of giving us the good and the bad, not scrubbing the history. In our guide, she again spoke openly about Slovakia's past, including periods under authoritarian rule and times when the country was closely aligned with Russia. That honesty actually sparked a confrontation. A local man overheard and told her she shouldn't be sharing that kind of history with foreigners, that it gave Slovakia a bad image. What stood out was that she didn't hold back. She explained that history isn't about protecting pride, it's about understanding how a country became to be. Standing here at the castle overlooking the entire city, that moment felt symbolic. Slovakia's story isn't simple and it doesn't pretend to be, but after walking the castle grounds and taking in the views, the tour started to wind down, and we tipped Millie. She was excellent. She shared her Instagram handle. She does a lot of traveling on her own, creating her own content. But then she made food recommendations, so we split off and we went to Slovak Pub, a casual spot known for traditional food and a perfect way to end out the day. But again, I highly recommend this walking tour and many of the free walking tours. Just please tip those tour guides. They work their tails off. Well, by now we knew that Millie knew what she was talking about when it came to Bratislava, so we took her recommendation, as did other tour goers, and headed over to the Slovak Pub. It's casual, local, it's known for traditional Slovak food, so it felt like the perfect way to end the day. The surroundings were quite cool, as you can see. Deep woods, a lot of carvings, some local art. We really dug it, both the bar side and the restaurant side. It's exactly what you'd expect. Cozy, old school, clearly built for both locals and tourists. But we finally made our way. You can see the cool little pan here, all the different antlers that are covering the walls. We started out with some drinks. Maddie tried the Kofola, which is essentially the Slovakian version of Coke. It's a little less sweet and a little more herbal with some spices.
So compared to Coke,
It doesn't taste anything like it.
can I taste it?
Yeah. It kind of tastes like a root beer. Like very sassafrasy.
Shot of whatever this is called.
You said don't smell it. You're already breaking
That's
the
right.
rules. I wouldn't have done that on an empty stomach.
Well, you're not a pro like me, Maddie. This was a shot of Slivovica. a clear plum brandy. It was fine, but the most famous spirit in Slovakia. And then as a chaser, I had a diesel. So this is light beer with cola mixed together. I was hoping it would be like the cola beer I had in Germany. Not quite, but it still hit the spot after a long, hot day. And then we had this delicious plate of food. This is a Slovakian platter. It included halušky, which was kind of like a gnocchi. One had a sheep cheese on it. The other had kind of a bacon jam. And then in the middle were pierogi, which are kind of like pierogi. I'm Polish, so we definitely dug that. But we ate things up. This plate pretty much represents the basic comfort food of Slovakia. But after this, we just enjoyed the rest of our dinner. Took a selfie for Mom, and then paid our tab, which was right around $40 with drinks and tip included. As we rounded out the day, not a lot of other excitement to be had. We did head over to Lidl, a area grocery store, so we could get some snacks and some things for the room. But that was it, all told, with all of the different things that we paid for the day, right around $314, which just goes to show that Central Europe, you can definitely get a bargain on. Well, hey, if you found this video to be helpful at all, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe. Drop us a comment. What do you think about Bratislava? Have you been? Do you have it on your list? Stick with us. Next up, in our next video, we'll do day number 8, also in Bratislava, a full day, more walking tours, and we'll get up to the UFO tower. But until next time, safe travels, everybody. Take care.